Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If copy system in Naruto. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name in the description below. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 201, That Susanoo is so pathetic. Uzumaki Shin, you really want to know where I got these Mangekyo Sharingan, don't you? Defeat me, and I'll tell you. Uzumaki Kai sneered, his eyes filled with defiance. I really can't stand it when people act cocky in front of me. Know your place, trash. Shin met Kai's arrogant gaze with a look of pure disdain, his voice utterly indifferent. This guy really thought that just because he had a pair of Mangekyo Sharingan, he could act like he was hot shit? How laughable. The so-called Reaper of the Shinobi world. Let me see if that title is truly deserved. Kai tightened his grip on his kunai, his figure flickering away as he activated body flicker technique, appearing directly behind Shin. With a ruthless thrust, he aimed for the back of his skull. You think you're worthy of fighting me? This world is getting crazier, there's no shortage of fools who overestimate themselves. Without even looking, Shin turned slightly, casually catching Kai by the throat as if he were grabbing a stray kitten. If he's trash, then what the hell am I? Nawaki's face was pale as he squatted on the ground, drawing circles in the dirt. Shin's words had hurt him. He had been fighting Kai for a while and almost died. Although it was partly because he didn't know about the Mangekyo Sharingan's abilities, the fact remained that he was almost killed. And now Shin was calling Kai trash? Did that mean he was even worse than trash? Kai struggled to breathe as Shin held him up by the neck. He tried to attack Shin with his kunai, but his arm wouldn't move. Nawaki, I'm about to crush his neck, any objections? Shin asked lazily. If possible, I'd still like to get my revenge myself, Nawaki said, snapping out of his daze. He wanted to kill Kai himself, but if Shin insisted, he couldn't stop him. Alright, let's make a deal. Tell me where you got your Mangekyo Sharingan, and I might spare you. Shin released Kai, who fell to the ground and glared at him with hatred. Still looking at me like that? Well, I suppose it makes sense, we've hated each other since we were kids. Shin wasn't the least bit bothered by Kai's hostility. A weakling's hatred meant nothing to him. Hurry up and talk. If you don't, I might just have to kill you. With a smooth motion, Shin drew his Kusanagi blade, its sharp edge glinting ominously. Susanoo! Kai roared, refusing to back down. Especially not against Shin, his nemesis. As the skeletal frame of Susanoo began forming around him, Shin's eyes widened slightly in surprise. But a moment later, his lips curled into a smirk. Wow, that Susanoo was so pathetic, Shin said, looking at the green Susanoo with amusement. I almost feel sorry for you. Your Susanoo reflects your state of mind. Just how jealous do you have to be for it to turn that color? Kai was in love with Akiko Uzumaki, who was now with Minato Namikaze. No wonder Kai's Susanoo manifested in such a peculiar hue. His Susanoo wasn't in its complete form, it was half-bodied and clad in armor, lacking a proper weapon. After all, Kai's Mangekyo Sharingan was transplanted, not the eternal Mangekyo. Susanoo's armored fist swung at Shin. Shin, are you going to be okay? Nawaki asked worriedly. He knew Shin was strong, but he didn't know exactly how strong. Of course I'll be fine. I'm the Reaper of the Shinobi world, remember? This is child's play. Don't underestimate me, Nawaki. Gale slash. Shin slashed at the 50-meter-tall Susanoo with a wind blade, cutting it in half. Kai fell to his knees, blood and tears streaming down his face. He was in excruciating pain. His eyes turned gray, losing all their light. You're blind? Shin looked at Kai in surprise. He had overused his Mangekyo Sharingan and gone blind. Why? Why can't I see? Kai roared like a wild animal. How pathetic. Didn't you know overuse of the Mangekyo Sharingan leads to blindness? This is what happens when you use it recklessly. Kai didn't hear Shin's words. He was still roaring. Actually, he hadn't even used his Mangekyo Sharingan that much. It was already weak because it was transplanted. Without another word, Shin stepped forward, placing a hand on Kai's head. His Sharingan spun, extracting every last memory from Kai's mind. A moment later, Shin smirked. Turns out, you got your Mangekyo from Danzo, and the original owner was Uchiha Kagami? He didn't know how Danzo got his hands on them, but Danzo had transplanted them into Kai, planning to use him as a weapon. Danzo wasn't worried about Kai betraying him. He had placed a curse on Kai. If Kai betrayed him, he would die. Kai collapsed after Shin forcibly extracted his memories. He wasn't dead, but his mind was severely damaged, beyond repair. Honestly, keeping you alive would just be cruel. I'll end your suffering. Shin incinerated Kai with Amaterasu. Black flames engulfed Kai's body. In seconds, he was reduced to nothing but ash. I couldn't even get my revenge myself. Nawaki sighed. I don't think you could ever get your revenge on your own, Shin said, looking at Nawaki. He wasn't underestimating Nawaki, but Kai was a genius. Nawaki might never surpass him. Ha! The IWA shinobi are retreating. Is that because of me? Shin looked at the retreating IWA shinobi. Anoki, locked in combat with Orochimaru, had glimpsed Shin effortlessly destroying Susanoo. Horrified, the Tsuchikage ordered a full retreat without hesitation. Shin, long time no see. Orochimaru approached. He had also noticed Shin, even before Anoki. Orochimaru, Kai was your student, wasn't he? Sorry, I accidentally killed him. Shin said. Nawaki looked at Orochimaru with a complicated expression. He had also been Orochimaru's student. Kai? I don't mind. Orochimaru didn't care about his student's death. If he had cared about his students during the Second Shinobi World War, he didn't care now. To him, immortality, knowledge, and power were the only things that mattered. And he didn't have any real feelings for his students anyway. Chapter 202, A Deal with Orochimaru. Nawaki, you must be happy to see your teacher, you guys chat. Shin glanced at Orochimaru, then took Konan's hand and was about to leave. He had no interest in exchanging pleasantries with Orochimaru, and he didn't like the creepy aura around him. Wait a moment, Shin. As Shin turned to leave, Orochimaru's voice stopped him. He had come here to talk to Shin. He couldn't let him leave just like that. What is it, Orochimaru? Shin asked. Shin and I don't like this guy's aura. It's creepy, Konan whispered to Shin. Orochimaru was indeed creepy. It was no wonder Konoha had never considered him fit to be Hokage. Not that Orochimaru himself particularly cared about that title. Orochimaru's hearing was sharp, and he heard Konan's words. But his expression didn't change. He probably knew he wasn't likable. Shin, there is something I'd like to ask you, Orochimaru stated, his snake-like golden eyes narrowing slightly. Ask me something? Shin looked at him in surprise. It seems there are differences between Mangekyo Sharingan. Yours is clearly superior to Kai's. Orochimaru's gaze flickered toward Kai's remains, a glint of disappointment in his eyes. He wasn't regretting Kai's death, the loss of a pair of Mangekyo Sharingan was the real tragedy. He had initially planned to take them for himself, even if it meant clashing with Danzo. But now. So that's what you're after. Shin smirked slightly. And why should I tell you? Shin, I can trade you my jutsu for that information. Your jutsu? Shin let out a small laugh. No thanks. I have zero interest in learning anything that comes from you. Most of Orochimaru's jutsu were mostly disgusting. Shin wasn't interested. And they weren't useful to him either. He wouldn't learn those disgusting jutsu just to disgust himself. Orochimaru frowned slightly. If jutsu weren't of interest, then. Shin, you have the Kusanagi blade, right? I also have one. Are you interested? Shin shook his head immediately. Did Orochimaru think he didn't know where his Kusanagi blade was? Even if Orochimaru gave it to him for free, he wouldn't take it. Because Orochimaru's Kusanagi blade was stored in his stomach. That was disgusting. Shin couldn't accept it. Then I only have this left. This should interest you, Shin. The summoning contract for Ryuchi Cave. You can summon snakes from one of the 3 sage regions. How about we trade this for your information? Orochimaru suddenly took out a scroll. This was the summoning contract for Ryuchi Cave. Shin recognized it. Tsunade had shown him the summoning contract for Shikatsu Forest before. But he had refused. He didn't like slugs, and he didn't need summons. With his strength, what use were summons to him? Even if the 9 tails wanted to be his summon, he wouldn't necessarily accept. Just as Shin was about to refuse, he suddenly thought of something and looked at the scroll. You haven't swallowed this, have you? Shin asked Orochimaru. Orochimaru was stunned. Caught off guard by the question. No, of course not. Good. Then I'll take it. Without hesitation, Shin reached out and took the contract. He had a reason for wanting this. He felt it might be useful to him. It seems we have a deal, Orochimaru said, a small smirk curling his lips. Don't smile like that, Orochimaru. It's creepy. You'll scare children. Now, for the answer to your question. Shin crossed his arms. The Mangekyo Sharingan isn't the pinnacle of the Sharingan's evolution. There's something beyond it, the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Only by awakening it can the true power of these eyes be unleashed. The eternal Mangekyo Sharingan? Orochimaru pondered this for a moment, then asked, Shin, how do you awaken the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan? You're asking me that? You really don't know your place. But I'm in a good mood, so I'll tell you. To awaken the eternal Mangekyo, you have to transplant the Mangekyo Sharingan of a sibling, someone related by blood who also possesses Mangekyo. Having said that, Shin no longer bothered with Orochimaru, taking Konan's hand and preparing to leave. Before leaving, Shin glanced at Nawaki. Nawaki, aren't you leaving? Or do you want to reminisce with Orochimaru? Of course I'm leaving. I'm a Konoha missing nin now, Nawaki said, following Shin and Konan. Orochimaru didn't snap out of his daze until long after Shin left. Transplant a sibling's Mangekyo Sharingan? That's brutal, Orochimaru said with a sinister smile. Obtaining the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan is difficult. He frowned. Even awakening the Mangekyo Sharingan was difficult, let alone having 2 siblings awaken it. Then he realized something. If that was the case, how did Shin obtain the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan? Shin didn't have any siblings. Where did his eyes come from? Was there another way? And was Shin's explanation true? He wasn't sure. After all, he didn't know Shin well and didn't trust him. Whether he's lying or not, it's worth a try. Orochimaru decided to try it. But it wouldn't be easy. He would have to target the Uchiha clan. As the strongest clan in Konoha, the Uchiha clan was powerful. Even Hiruzen Sarutobi was wary of them. It wouldn't be easy for Orochimaru to target them. Of course, whether Orochimaru decided to target the Uchiha clan or not was none of Shin's business. Shin nii, what do you want that summoning contract for? You don't need it, do you? Konan asked, pointing at the scroll in Shin's hand. Shin smiled. It wasn't that he had no use for it. He had his reasons. Specifically, he wanted to meet the White Snake Sage in person someday. Chapter 203, Shin on the verge of being chopped to pieces. Shin temporarily stored the Ryuchi Cave summoning contract. He wasn't planning on visiting the legendary Sage region just yet. He turned his attention to Nawaki. That burn on your arm, want me to heal it? I won't leave a single scar. Not that I'm bragging or anything. Nawaki glanced at his scorched arm. Though Shin had extinguished the Amaterasu flames in time, the burns were severe. After a moment of thought, he shook his head. I'll keep it. A reminder of this lesson. So, Nawaki, what are your plans? Conan and I are returning to the land of whirlpools. Want to come with us? Nah, I think I'll pass. Not sure how Tsunade would react. She might try to discipline me. Nawaki was terrified of Tsunade. If she found out how close he had come to death because of his recklessness, she'd give him a lecture he'd never forget. Where are you going, then? Plenty of places to see. I'm going to travel the world. A wistful look entered Nawaki's eyes. He had been wandering the shinobi world for years, but his focus had always been on revenge and training. Now that Uzumaki Kai was dead, he could finally relax and explore. Shin and Nawaki parted ways. As long as Nawaki didn't do anything reckless, he'd be fine. His strength was more than enough to protect himself. Conan, we've been away for a while. Time to head back. They had been gone for over half a month and hadn't returned to the land of whirlpools once. He wondered if Kushina and the others were angry. Are we really going back? Conan blushed, suddenly nervous. She wasn't sure how to face Kushina, Makoto, and Tsunade. Don't be shy, Conan. It'll be fine, Shin said, ruffling her hair. Shin and You messed up my hair. Conan swatted his hand away and smoothed her hair. I'm worried they'll be angry. They won't. And even if they are, what can they do? I'm here. Shin puffed out his chest confidently. Conan looked at him, then lowered her head. Hey, Conan, do you not trust me? Don't worry, as long as I'm there, they won't say a thing. It seemed his reassurances weren't very reassuring. Conan hesitated, but she didn't say anything. She didn't want to hurt Shin's pride. She was kind and gentle, she wouldn't do that. Even if Conan wanted to avoid the inevitable confrontation, she couldn't run forever. Let's use Yamatsu Hirasaka. Shin opened a swirling black portal. So, Shin and you must be missing Kushina and the others, right? Conan pouted slightly. She was jealous, though she didn't want to admit it. Shin chuckled. You're right. I do miss them. It's been a while. Shin picked Conan up and stepped through the portal, appearing in the courtyard of their home in the land of whirlpools. Shin. Conan. You're finally back. Makoto set down her watering can and rushed over, a delighted smile on her face. Shin set the blushing Conan down and hugged Makoto. Makoto, did you miss me? Of course I did. It's been so long, Makoto replied, a playful glint in her eyes. Ahem. Shin coughed awkwardly and quickly changed the subject. Where are Kushina and Tsunade? Did they go train? No, they didn't go train. Kushina dragged Tsunade out to recruit shinobi for Suikagakure. Huh? When will they be back? Probably around evening. Though I doubt they'll find any suitable shinobi. I doubt it too. I wonder when Kushina will give up on this village idea. I don't understand why she wants to create a hidden village. Shin shrugged. Conan, why is your face so red? Makoto turned her attention to Conan, a puzzled look on her face. Maybe it's because it's hot? Conan said quickly. Really? Makoto looked at her skeptically. She had a feeling something was off. Near evening, Kushina and Tsunade finally returned. Shin. You're back. Kushina rushed over and hugged him, much to Tsunade's annoyance. She had wanted to hug him, too, but Kushina had beaten her to it. Shin, I think you should explain what happened with Conan. Makoto gave Shin a sweet smile, but her eyes held a warning. Huh? What are you talking about, Makoto? Kushina and Tsunade looked at her, confused. Ask Shin. While Kushina and Tsunade were out, Makoto had managed to get the full story from Conan. She was upset, though she'd been expecting it. After all, she'd guessed it might happen. Kushina and Tsunade looked at Shin, while Conan hid her blushing face. Shin sighed. It was all up to him now. Conan is my woman now. He decided to be straightforward. There was no point hiding it, Makoto already knew. What? Shin, how do you want to die? Kushina's fists clenched, and her chakra flared. Kushina, calm down, Shin said quickly. Calm down? How can I calm down? You're dead meat. Kushina drew her kunai. Though she didn't have a kitchen knife, a kunai would do the job just as well. Shin froze. Was she serious? He could already see the pearly gates of heaven opening for him. No, he wouldn't go to heaven. He would go to hell. Chapter 204, Smooth Talker? Ah, Kushina, you're not actually going to do it, are you? You wouldn't hurt me, would you? Why not? Scumbags deserve to be punished, don't they? Kushina said angrily. Shin was speechless. He couldn't deny being a scumbag. Humph, if there's a next time, you're really dead. Kushina sheathed her kunai and glared at Shin. He breathed a sigh of relief. She was just bluffing. He had been putting on an act, but inwardly, he'd been calm. Tsunade, what do you think? Kushina had calmed down, now it was Tsunade's turn. What do I think? What can I say? Tsunade also glared at Shin, then turned away. What was done. And she'd been expecting this. Besides, compared to Kushina and Makoto, she was the latecomer. She didn't really have much say in this matter. Conan, don't be shy. Kushina sat down and patted Conan's shoulder. I am not shy. Your face is so red. If that's not shy, what is it? Kushina said, looking at Conan's blushing face. Is my face really that red? Conan touched her cheeks. They were warm. She hadn't looked in a mirror, but they must be red. Kushina, I heard you went to recruit shinobi for Suikagakure. Did you find any suitable candidates? Shin asked. Do you even need to ask? Just look at us. Obviously not, Tsunade said first. She didn't care about Kushina's hidden village. If Kushina hadn't dragged her along, she wouldn't have gone. We didn't find anyone. There aren't many strong female shinobi in the world, Kushina said, disappointed. She wanted to build a village of beautiful and powerful kunoichi, so of course she was looking for female shinobi. Kushina, even if you did find someone, how would you convince them to join? Kidnap them first, then persuade them later. Too bad I haven't found any suitable targets yet. Well, that's unfortunate for whoever you target. Shin started feeling sorry for any kunoichi who might catch Kushina's attention. By the way, what exactly were you and Conan doing out there? You weren't just doing that the entire time, were you? Kushina looked at Shin and Conan with a mischievous grin. Kushina-ne. What are you saying? Conan stomped her foot and hurried into the kitchen to help Makoto with dinner. And to escape Kushina's teasing. What do you think I am? Shin glared at Kushina. We ran into Nawaki in the land of rain. You met Nawaki? How is he? What was he doing in the land of rain? Tsunade's brow furrowed. The land of rain was a war zone. What was Nawaki doing there? He's fine. With his strength, as long as he doesn't do anything stupid, he can protect himself. Nawaki's strength had reached Kage level. Kage level shinobi were generally safe. They could always run if they couldn't win. And Uzumaki Kai is dead. Though he died by my hand, Nawaki's revenge is complete. That's good. Tsunade nodded. She was relieved to hear Nawaki was fine. Dinner's ready. Makoto and Conan emerged from the kitchen, carrying dishes laden with food. Wow, this looks amazing. Of course. We made it especially for your return, Makoto said with a smile. Really? Thank you, Makoto. No need to thank me. Let's eat before it gets cold. After dinner, as they sat around sipping tea, Shin asked, Kushina, Tsunade, I'm guessing you haven't been training while I was gone, right? Who said that? I've been training hard. Ask Makoto. Kushina replied quickly. You're a terrible liar. Shin could tell Kushina was lying. He knew her too well. Kushina stuck out her tongue playfully, hoping to get away with it. I think I'm already quite strong. Really? In my eyes, you're still weak. Only after mastering Sage Mode can you be considered above Kage level. That's just your opinion. I feel like I could take on any Kage, Kushina said confidently. She was right. The other Kage weren't a match for her. But compared to Six Paths level, they were still weak. You still need to train. Both of you are weaker than Makoto. Shin looked at Tsunade and Kushina. Tsunade and Kushina used to be stronger than Makoto, but now, with her eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Makoto surpassed them. Fine. We'll train seriously starting tomorrow, Kushina said, a bit dejected. It seemed she wouldn't be able to continue her search for Kunoichi to join Suikagakure. But she had to get stronger. She wouldn't be left behind by Makoto. Shin Nii, will you help me with Sage Mode tomorrow? Konan asked. She was close to mastering Sage Mode. Perhaps in a few days, she'd be able to use it. Of course. I'll guide you tomorrow, Konan. Don't give up if it gets tough. I won't. Konan shook her head. She wasn't afraid of hard work. She had always been the most diligent, and that was why her strength had increased so rapidly. After chatting for a while, it got late, and they all went to bed. Why am I alone again? Shin sighed as he returned to his room. He had wanted to visit Kushina, Makoto, and Tsunade, but they had kicked him out. Chapter 205, Journey to Ryuchi Cave. The next morning, Shin noticed Kushina's dark circles and asked, Kushina, did you not sleep well last night? You have the nerve to ask? Kushina snapped, glaring at him. Shin, bewildered by her sudden hostility, racked his brain trying to figure out what had he done. He had tried to go to Kushina's room last night, but she had kicked him out. But instead of sleeping, Kushina had stayed up, fully expecting him to try again. She had waited the entire night for a late-night ambush, but it never came. And after losing sleep over it, she was now nursing a grudge. And it wasn't just her. Tsunade and Makoto had done the same thing, eyeing him with a mix of resentment and frustration. Shin had no clue what was going on, but if he ever found out the truth, he'd probably be banging his head against a wall. After breakfast, Shin took the 4 girls to the training grounds. Besides Konan, the other 3 were clearly not in their best shape. Understandably so, they had all pulled an all-nighter. Are you all okay? Need a break? Shin asked. I'm fine, Kushina said, shaking her head. Staying up all night wasn't a big deal for a shinobi. Though I didn't expect Makoto and Tsunade to be the same as me. She gave Tsunade and Makoto a strange look. Makoto blushed and looked down, embarrassed, but Tsunade didn't react. After all, she was in the same boat as Kushina, she couldn't tease her. Kushina, Makoto, and Tsunade could train on their own, but Konan needed Shin's supervision for Sage Mode training. It was a dangerous technique, especially now that Konan was in the final stages. Shin couldn't afford any mishaps. Around noon, Makoto stopped training to prepare lunch. Konan, let's take a break. Sage Mode training can't be rushed. You need precise chakra control. Spiritual, physical, and natural energy had to be balanced in a precise ratio to activate Sage Mode. It wasn't easy. Rushing the process would only lead to mistakes, and mistakes in Sage Mode training could be fatal. Okay. Konan nodded, wiping the sweat from her brow. She was mentally exhausted from focusing all her energy. Let's stop for today. We'll continue tomorrow. Shin said, seeing Konan's state. I'll do as you say, Shin Nii. Konan leaned against Shin, blushing slightly. Konan. You're making us feel like third wheels. Kushina and Tsunade complained. They both moved closer to Shin. Shin, sandwiched between the three women, put on a show of being annoyed, but he was secretly enjoying their closeness, especially the pleasant scent surrounding him. Oh, I almost forgot. Shin took out the summoning contract scroll he'd obtained from Orochimaru. Isn't that a summoning contract? Where did you get it? Tsunade asked, surprised. From Orochimaru. I saw him in the Land of Rain, along with Jiraiya. You're interested in summons? I offered you a contract before, and you didn't even look at it. Tsunade sounded a bit hurt. Did Shin dislike her slugs that much? It wasn't that he disliked them, he simply wasn't fond of slugs. The thought of those slimy creatures made him uncomfortable. Of course, that didn't mean he liked snakes. He wasn't a fan of the snakes of Ryuchi Cave either. I'm going to use this to visit Ryuchi Cave, Shin announced. Why are you going there? Kushina asked, curious. I have my reasons. I want to meet the White Snake Sage. Kushina, want to come with me to Ryuchi Cave? No way. I hate snakes. Just thinking about them makes me shudder. Kushina refused immediately. She knew Ryuchi Cave was full of snakes, there was no way she was going. Are you going now? Not yet. Let's eat first. Makoto's probably finished cooking. After lunch, Shin signed the summoning contract. Summoning Jutsu. He performed the hand seals, and a massive purple-striped snake appeared before him. Manda, Orochimaru's summon. Manda was notoriously arrogant, Orochimaru had to offer sacrifices to get its cooperation. But Shin simply subdued it with his Rinne Tensigen. Controlling Manda was child's play for him. Are you sure you don't want to come to Ryuchi Cave? Shin asked Tsunade, Makoto, Kushina, and Konan. No, you go ahead, Shin. Be careful. Tsunade, Makoto, and Konan weren't fans of snakes. They had no interest in visiting Ryuchi Cave. Alright, I'll be going then. Shin sent Manda back to Ryuchi Cave, then used the reverse summoning jutsu to teleport there himself. Ugh, the stench. Shin wrinkled his nose. Snake scales had a distinct odor, and Ryuchi Cave was full of them. Most of the snakes were ordinary, though. Few were at the level of a summoning beast. He glanced at Manda and released his control over it. The snake immediately recoiled in fear. Well, looks like you do know fear. Shin smirked. Where's that arrogance you always show to Orochimaru? Who the hell are you? Where did you get a Ryuchi Cave summoning contract? Manda asked warily. For all its pride and arrogance, Manda wasn't an idiot. It was also a creature that bullied the weak and feared the strong. If you don't want me to control you again, then behave and take me to the White Snake Sage. If you refuse, I'll just control you again. Manda was enraged. Orochimaru had never threatened it like this. That was why it was so arrogant when dealing with him. But recalling the feeling of being controlled, it reluctantly agreed, lowering its head and leading the way. Chapter 206, Mission, Eliminate the White Snake Sage. I really don't like this place. Shin released his chakra, and the snakes surrounding them scattered in fear. Animals were sensitive to danger, especially snakes. They could sense Shin's power and fled. Even Manda cowered, not daring to breathe. Shin was surprised by its timidness. This wasn't the arrogant Manda he knew from the original story. Well, perhaps it was simply a matter of picking its battles. Manda had also been quite submissive when facing Sasuke. Following Manda, Shin finally met the White Snake Sage. Even Manda, usually unruly, was respectful in the White Snake Sage's presence. It also felt a sense of relief. It wasn't a match for Shin, but the White Snake Sage possessed overwhelming power. Killing this human should be easy. Manda, why did you bring a human here? A massive white snake coiled around a throne, a pipe clenched in its jaws. This was the White Snake Sage. White Snake Sage, I didn't bring him here. He threatened me. Manda quickly slithered towards the White Snake Sage, away from Shin. Human, are you looking for me? The white snake sage's snake-like eyes fixed on Shin. Normally, it wouldn't bother with a human, perhaps even devouring them if it was in a bad mood. But the white snake sage could sense a dangerous power from him. It restrained its predatory instincts. That's right. I'm here to see you. Shin looked at the white snake sage. Its massive body contained an immense amount of Senjutsu chakra, surpassing even the Nine Tails. The white snake sage was ancient, perhaps even older than the Nine Tails. It might have been alive even before Hagoromo Otsutsuki was born. It was at least as old as Gamamaru, the great toad sage of Mount Mayaboku. They were both from Hagoromo's era. Having lived for so long, it must have access to valuable information. Shin's goal was to gather intel. Human, what is your purpose? The white snake sage had a feeling Shin's arrival wasn't a good omen. I want information. I want to know if the Sage of Six Paths is still alive. Shin had always suspected Hagoromo wasn't truly dead, that he might still be alive somewhere, not just as a lingering chakra presence. He hoped the white snake sage, having lived so long, might know something. The Sage of Six Paths? The white snake sage narrowed its eyes. Why do you ask? Sometimes, knowing too much can be dangerous. It seems you do know something. Tell me, Shin said, staring at it. Human, even if I did, why would I tell you? You're right, you have no reason to. But I could force you to talk. I simply prefer not to resort to violence. The choice is yours. Shin looked at the white snake sage calmly. If it refused to cooperate, he would attack. He also wanted to know how strong the sages of the three great sage regions were. Don't get cocky, little human. Do you want to die? The white snake sage's eyes turned menacing. Shin's words were a threat, and it was the first time it had ever been threatened by a human. The white snake sage wasn't a pushover. Though it was wary of Shin's power, anyone who dared threaten it. First of all, my name is Uzumaki Shin. Second, I don't like being called a little human. And you, a mere beast, have no right to call me that. Die. The white snake sage roared and lunged at Shin, jaws wide. Though it lived in the Ryuchi cave, it understood the insult. The white snake sage is angry. You're dead. Manda said gleefully before slithering away. Even Manda was afraid of the white snake sage's wrath. It knew Shin would be devoured. You haven't brushed your teeth in ages, have you? Stay away from me, Shinra Tensei. Shin wrinkled his nose at the stench emanating from the white snake sage's maw. He wondered when it had last brushed its teeth. He used Shinra Tensei, blasting the white snake sage back. The repulsive force was so powerful that it destroyed the white snake sage's dwelling, leaving a massive crater in its wake. Uzumaki Shin. I'll swallow you whole. The white snake sage glared at Shin, hatred burning in its eyes. Shin had not only injured it but also destroyed its home. Unforgivable. Snakes were known for their grudges, the white snake sage was no exception. If you had just told me what I wanted to know, I would have spared you. But now I have to kill you. Shin activated his 9-tomo Rinna Tensigen, his gaze pressing down on the white snake sage. Ding! Master, you have a new mission. Do you want to check it? Shin paused. This was the first mission since the system upgrade. Yes. Mission, eliminate the white snake sage. Reward, advanced replication card X3. Shin looked at the white snake sage. It was doomed. He had to complete this mission. 5 advanced replication cards could be combined into a divine replication card. This reward was worth more than half of a divine replication card. And this was the first time he had received a mission that rewarded multiple cards. Little human, what kind of eyes are those? The white snake sage asked. It had seen the Sharingan, the Byakugan, and even the Rinnegan. But it had never seen eyes like Shin's. I told you, I don't like being called little human. Do I not have a name? You beast. Shin's eyes flickered, and an immense repulsive force slammed into the white snake sage, sending it crashing into the ground. The entire cave shook. And the white snake sage's massive body sank into the ground, causing the floor of Ryuchi Cave to drop nearly 20 meters. Chapter 207, Golden Wool Reincarnation Slays the White Snake Sage. Shin hovered in midair, gazing down at the white snake sage, who was practically flattened into a pancake by the repulsive force. As expected of Ryuchi Cave Sage, your vitality is truly tenacious. Even this didn't kill you. Such severe injuries likely damaged internal organs. However, under Shin's scrutiny, the white snake sage's life force hadn't diminished. Suddenly, the sage opened its massive mouth, and from within, a white-scaled snake emerged, leaving only a shed skin behind. Shedding, huh? Shin was familiar with this scene, as Orochimaru had developed a substitution technique using this method to evade attacks. Orochimaru's inspiration likely came from snakes shedding their skin. A clever survival tactic, Shin remarked. The white snake sage used this method to remain unscathed, earning Shin's admiration for its ingenuity. Of course, Shin had no intention of studying a similar jutsu, it was visually unappealing. Moreover, Shin didn't need such survival techniques. His Yamatsu Hirasaka and Tenmamai were his most reliable defenses. The white snake sage opened its gaping maw, gathering senjutsu chakra rapidly. Even the natural energy of Ryuchi Cave was drawn in. The natural energy here was abundant, Shin had sensed it upon arrival. Looks like you're preparing something big. I'm curious to see it. Shin watched the sage without concern. Honestly, he didn't believe anyone could threaten him, let alone a mere beast. After gathering chakra for a moment, the white snake sage unleashed its technique, a chakra sphere resembling a tailed beast bomb aimed directly at Shin. Dojutsu, Takamagara. The incoming chakra sphere was instantly reflected back, striking the white snake sage. The previously compressed ground, as hard as steel, cracked open from the explosion, with countless fissures spreading across the earth. Takamagara, a dojutsu of Shin's Rinne Tenseigen, could nullify and reflect all attacks, making it an invincible technique. It could even negate and counter taijutsu attacks, a truly formidable ability. After all, it was a dojutsu born from the fusion of the Rinnegan and Tenseigen, it had to be extraordinary. How does it feel to be hit by your own technique? Care to share your thoughts? Shin inquired. The white snake sage wasn't killed by the reflected attack, using its shedding technique once more to survive. That's a rather cheap trick. But I bet it consumes a lot of chakra, doesn't it? Shin observed. The power of the reflected attack surpassed that of a tailed beast bomb, yet the sage remained unscathed. Among the opponents Shin had faced, the sage ranked second in resilience, surpassed only by Ryusuke Otsutsuki. The sage glared at Shin, then lashed its tail toward him. The air exploded with the force of the tail's swing, showcasing its immense power. Shin estimated the sage's strength to be at the peak of the Super Kage level. It possessed the might to contend with Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama, though in an actual fight, it might not prevail against them. The attack reached Shin in an instant. Compared to the sage's massive tail, Shin appeared small. However, true strength isn't determined by size. The sage's tail halted before Shin, stopped effortlessly by his Shinra Tensei. Shinra Tensei creates a repulsive force field centered on the user, serving both offensive and defensive purposes. It can repel enemies and defend against attacks. Unless one can overcome its repulsive force, harming Shin is impossible. White Snake Sage, between you and the Great Toad Sage, who's stronger? After blocking the attack, Shin didn't retaliate but instead curiously asked the sage. The White Snake Sage didn't answer, continuing its assault on Shin. No answer? Fine, I wasn't that eager to know anyway. Shin activated his Tenseigen chakra mode, dark chakra enveloped him. I'm done playing. Let's end this. Shin spoke calmly, eager to test the power of his Tenseigen chakra mode. Golden Will Reincarnation Explosion. 12 black truth-seeking balls appeared in Shin's hand, forming a towering golden sword. The White Snake Sage stared at Shin, eyes filled with terror. You have 6 paths power? The sage couldn't believe it. Only now did it realize Shin wielded godlike 6 paths power. Had it known earlier, the sage wouldn't have dared to attack Shin. But some things offer no second chances. Under the Golden Wool reincarnation explosion, the sage's body was instantly cleaved, along with Ryuchi Cave itself. I wonder if you have any other tricks to survive. Shin watched the bisected body of the white snake sage. Against such an attack, shedding was useless, as it had been split in two. Oh, still alive? Too bad I noticed. From the halved corpse, a small white snake attempted to slither away. This was the sage, abandoning its original body to save its life. Shin raised his hand, creating a truth-seeking ball. Having mastered the power of the Kekkei Mora, creating truth-seeking balls was effortless for him. Controlling the truth-seeking ball, he directed it toward the fleeing white snake, erasing it instantly. Truth-seeking balls can obliterate anything lacking six paths power. Clearly, the white snake sage didn't possess such power, so it perished. Ding! Congratulations, Master. You have completed the mission. Reward, Advanced Replication Card X3. The system's voice confirmed the white snake sage's death. Damn, I think I forgot something. Shin suddenly remembered why he had come to Ryuchi Cave, to inquire about the Sage of Six Paths. But he had forgotten during the fight. And now it was too late. The white snake sage was dead. I should have read its memories before killing it. What a waste. Shin shook his head regretfully. He did want to know about the Sage of Six Paths, but it wasn't essential. He looked at the white snake sage's corpse and used a truth-seeking ball to erase the sage's remains. Chapter 208, The Kiri Shinobi. After erasing the white snake sage's corpse with a truth-seeking ball, Shin surveyed the entirety of Ryuchi Cave. With his 9-tomo Rinne Tensigen, Shin could encompass the entire Ryuchi Cave in his sight. Nothing worthwhile here. Finding nothing of value, Shin decided to leave, as he didn't favor the environment of this place. After he left, the surviving snakes in Ryuchi Cave breathed a sigh of relief. The cave had been split in two, and over the snakes had been killed. But it was still fortunate that half of them survived. Shin used Yamatsu Hirasaka to return home. Previously, he hadn't used Yamatsu Hirasaka to enter Ryuchi Cave because he didn't know its coordinates. Therefore, he summoned Manda to lead him there. Returning, however, was straightforward, as he possessed the coordinates of the outside world. Ah, it's good to be back. Shin exhaled deeply. Despite the abundant natural energy in Ryuchi Cave, he didn't appreciate its gloomy environment. Uchiha Madara, who lived underground, would probably like it there. Entering the house, Shin noticed that Kushina and the others were absent. This indicated to him that they were likely training. He went to the training ground he had built, and indeed, Kushina, Tsunade, Makoto, and Konan were all there. Shin, you're back? That was quick. Makoto was the first to notice Shin's return. She paused her fire release training and approached him. Considering the short duration of his absence, Makoto's face showed a hint of surprise. I'm back. Unfortunately, I didn't achieve my primary goal, but it's alright, I didn't come back empty-handed. Although he didn't obtain information about the Sage of Six Paths, he did acquire 3 advanced copy cards, a considerable gain. Now that you're back, hurry up and teach us, Kushina said, pulling Shin towards them. You're unusually diligent today. Shin couldn't help but smile. Of course. I have to surpass Makoto. Kushina glanced at Makoto. That'll be difficult. Makoto's current strength was formidable. Even if Kushina and Tsunade teamed up, they might struggle against her. The power of the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan was immense. With its abilities, Makoto's strength had surpassed that of Kushina and Tsunade. Why do you want to surpass me? Makoto couldn't help but ask. Kushina placed a finger on her chin, pondering before responding, I guess it's a matter of pride. I used to be able to easily defeat you, but now you've overtaken me. Kushina, you were never able to beat me up easily, Makoto said, rolling her eyes. Even before, their strength had been similar. I'll guide you in a few days. Right now, I need to help Konan with her Sage Mode training. Shin turned to Kushina. Kushina nodded, understanding that Conan was at a critical stage in her training. Time flew by, and a month passed. Shin remained busy, continuously instructing the four women in their training. Conan had now mastered Sage Mode proficiently. Kushina and the others had also improved, but not by much. It was difficult for them to improve further. They had almost reached their limits. At this moment, Shin stood by the seaside. Not far from the shore, a ship was approaching. With his eyesight, he could easily see the people on the ship. They were dressed as shinobi, and from their forehead protectors, he recognized them as shinobi from Kirigakure. They're heading towards the land of whirlpools. Shin's eyes narrowed slightly. Did they really think they could come and go from here as they pleased? Shin, you're here. Let's go back and eat. Kushina appeared beside Shin, using the body flicker technique. Eat? Let's deal with these guys first. Shin pointed at the ship, which had reached the shore. A group of Kiri shinobi disembarked. What are they doing here? Kushina frowned. It doesn't matter what they're doing here. This is our land. In an instant, Kushina vanished, reappearing before the group of Kiri shinobi. Kushina's body flicker technique is getting faster. I wonder how it compares to Shursui Uchiha's. Shin said to himself. He had never met Shursui Uchiha, but he didn't think Shursui's body flicker technique was better than Kushina's. The reason was simple: Kushina was far stronger than Shursui. Who gave you permission to come here? Kushina demanded. Captain, there's someone here. A fierce-looking Kiri shinobi said to the woman standing at the front of their group. The woman was their captain. Kushina looked at the captain, a young woman with green eyes and long, wavy brown hair, younger than even Conan. She was also quite beautiful. And as their captain, she must be strong. She met all the requirements for Kushina's ideal recruit. Hey, what's your name? Kushina asked. Mei Terumi. And you are? Mei looked at Kushina warily. Though Kushina seemed harmless, the fact that she had appeared before them in an instant meant that she wasn't weak. I'll tell you who I am later. For now, I declare that you're a member of Suikagakure. Kushina declared. Is that Mei Terumi, the fifth Mizukage? Shin muttered to himself in surprise. She certainly looked like her. Mei Terumi was confused. Suikagakure? She'd never heard of it. Kushina, shouldn't you ask her if she agrees first? Shin asked, walking over. Does it matter if she agrees? She doesn't have a choice, Kushina said, glancing at Mei Terumi. She had decided to recruit Mei Terumi. There was no escape, unless Mei Terumi was stronger than her. Chapter 209, Mei Terumi accepts her fate. Captain Mei, should we take care of these two? A Kiri shinobi behind Mei Terumi drew his kunai, looking at Shin and Kushina. Take care of me? You think you're strong enough? Shin looked at the Kiri shinobi who had spoken, his eyes flickering. The shinobi immediately collapsed. Inoue. What happened? The other Kiri shinobi rushed to Inoue's side, only to find he was dead. They were horrified. They hadn't even seen Shin move, he'd just looked at Inoue. Could a glance be lethal? They didn't know Shin had used genjutsu, a single illusion shattering Inoue's mind. For Shin, such a feat was trivial. Compared to these average shinobi, he was practically a god. Water style, water dragon bullet technique. Mei, unlike the others, didn't hesitate. She attacked Shin with a water dragon jutsu. Just as Shin was about to retaliate, Kushina used an earth wall to block the attack. Shin, leave her to me. I'll deal with all of them. Kushina still wanted to recruit Mei Terumi. She didn't want Shin to kill her. Fine, she's all yours. Shin shrugged. He hadn't intended to kill Mei anyway. Shin? You're Uzumaki Shin? Mei stared at Shin, her eyes wide with a mix of surprise, admiration, and fear. So you know me. Didn't expect to still be famous after all these years. Shin was surprised. It had been 8 years since he last appeared in the shinobi world. He thought most people would have forgotten about him by now. Uzumaki Shin? The Reaper of the shinobi world? What's he doing here? Some of the Kiri shinobi looked despairingly at Shin. They knew his reputation. After all, their third Mizukichi had been killed by him. This is the land of whirlpools. Why wouldn't I be here? Shin's tone was flat, but his words sent chills down the Kiri shinobi's spines. I haven't even done anything yet, and they've already lost their will to fight. Kushina sounded disappointed. She'd wanted to use these Kiri shinobi as practice, but they were too scared to fight. She glared at Shin. Shin was confused. Why was she glaring at him? You Kiri shinobi trespassed into the land of whirlpools. I should kill you all. But I'll be merciful. Mei Terumi, you stay. The rest of you can leave. The Kiri shinobi looked at each other, then nodded. We agree. Mei's face darkened. They agreed? Shouldn't she, their captain, be the one making the decision? Before she could say anything, they scrambled back onto their ship and fled. Damn it! I didn't agree to this. Mei Terumi said to Shin anxiously. She wasn't the type to sacrifice herself for others. Especially not for these cowards who abandoned her without hesitation. Too late, they're gone. Shin grabbed Mei Terumi and threw her to Kushina. Kushina, she's all yours. Kushina nodded and looked at Mei, her gaze intimidating. Mei was nervous. Her life was in Kushina's hands. She was only 15, still in the bloom of youth. She hadn't even experienced love yet. She didn't want to die. About joining Suikagakure. Have you made your decision? Kushina asked directly. What if I don't join? Then I'll have to kill you. You're of no use to me otherwise. Kushina's words terrified Mei. I agree. I'll join. Mei didn't hesitate any longer. That was easy. I thought I'd have to persuade you a bit more. Kushina was surprised. Do I have a choice? I don't want to die, Mei Terumi said, resigned. She was still young. It would be a shame to die now. Mei regretted coming to the land of whirlpools. She had only intended to use it as a stopover on her way to the Kiri's battlefront with Konoha. Now she was stuck here. Good. You'll be proud of your choice one day. Kushina was thrilled. Mei Terumi was the first outsider to join Suikagakure. She finally had her first subordinate. Don't try anything funny. You know the consequences. Shin looked at Mei. Mei nodded immediately. Even if she had any ideas, she wouldn't dare try anything in front of Shin. Let's go home. Shin teleported back home with Kushina and the newly recruited Mei. Makoto was just about to go look for them. You're finally back. I was just about to go find you. Did you forget about dinner? And who is this? Makoto looked at Mei, her gentle expression turning sharp. Mei cowered under Makoto's gaze, which was surprisingly intimidating. Makoto, this is my new recruit. She's joining Suikagakure. What do you think? Kushina asked excitedly. Oh, is that so? I thought someone was being a playboy again. Makoto's sharp gaze softened, and her intimidating aura vanished. Shin. Playboy? So that was how Makoto saw him? Shin stroked his chin, thinking about how to punish Makoto. Makoto suddenly shivered and looked at Shin. Seeing his gaze, she had a bad feeling. Let's eat before the food gets cold, she said quickly, changing the subject. She knew Shin's gaze meant trouble. Don't think you can escape. Shin looked at Makoto's retreating figure. He'd deal with her later. Chapter 210, That's Not How You Treat a Girl. At the dinner table, Makoto, Tsunade, and Konan stared at Mei, who felt incredibly nervous under their scrutiny. She didn't know Makoto and Konan, but she knew Tsunade. Her reputation as one of the Sannin was widespread. She's a Kiri shinobi. Do you really trust her, Kushina? Tsunade asked. Honestly? No. But trust can be earned. I believe Mei will prove herself trustworthy. I still don't think this is a good idea. Another girl, it's not going to end well. Tsunade looked at Shin and shook her head. Mei Terumi was beautiful, so Tsunade was naturally wary. Shin, don't you have anything to say? Tsunade asked Shin. What should I say? This was Kushina's decision. As long as she's fine with it, I don't have any objections. I see. You must be happy about this, Tsunade said, glancing at Shin. Shin understood what she meant and didn't reply. I'm full. You guys enjoy. I'm going to train. Shin finished eating, wiped his mouth, and left. Although he was already incredibly strong, he still didn't neglect his training. The 6 paths level was powerful, but Shin wasn't satisfied. He wanted to become even stronger. I'm full too. Enjoy your meal, no need to rush. Kushina stood up and followed Shin. Tsunade, Makoto, and Konan looked at the empty dishes on the table. Kushina and Shin had devoured everything. What were they supposed to eat? I guess I didn't make enough. Time to cook some more. Makoto glared at Kushina. She ate so much, yet she never gained weight. Makoto was a bit jealous. Their life was peaceful, but the shinobi world was in turmoil. Kumobakure had finally joined the war, attacking Konoha. This was bad news for Konoha. Konoha was now facing 4 great villages at once. Even the strongest village couldn't withstand this. Hiruzen Sarutobi also left the village to join the battle. This was a desperate measure. No one would want their Kage to fight unless it was absolutely necessary. This war was even more brutal than the Second Shinobi World War. The Second War had been mostly suppressed by Shin. Although there were heavy casualties, it wasn't as chaotic as this. Every village had deployed their genin, even Konoha scraping the bottom of the barrel. The Uchiha clan is really pitiful. Shin watched the Uchiha fight on the Kiri front, shaking his head. They were being used as cannon fodder, yet they didn't rebel against Konoha? Everyone knew the Uchiha specialized in fire release and Sharingan, yet they were sent to fight the Kiri shinobi, whose water release countered fire release. This severely hampered their combat effectiveness. If they had been deployed elsewhere, their contributions would have been far greater. This was clearly a deliberate act of sabotage by Hiruzen and Danzo. Even after being treated so unfairly, they still didn't have the guts to rebel? No wonder Madara Uchiha was disappointed in them. Shin-sama, are you going to intervene? Mei Terumi asked Shin cautiously. Intervene? Why would I? Shin looked at her in surprise. I thought Shin-sama might help Konoha. After all, you were once a Konoha shinobi. Mei hoped Shin wouldn't intervene. If he helped Konoha, Kirigakure would be doomed. Although she had been betrayed by her own people, she still had feelings for Kirigakure. Even if Shin didn't help Konoha, his involvement would still spell trouble for Kiri. By the way, Shin-sama, why did you bring me here? Mei wondered why Shin had brought her along. It wasn't just for fun, was it? Did he have other motives? Mei Terumi blushed. Shin was the most handsome man she had ever seen. She admired him, and despite the circumstances, she was also a bit flattered by his attention. Many in Kirigakure hated Shin, but many also admired him. People admired strength, especially shinobi. They admired those with great power. Shin was at the pinnacle of power in this era. Many in the hidden villages admired him. They hated him, feared him, but they also admired him. What are you thinking about? Shin flicked Mei's forehead, snapping her out of her thoughts. And nothing. I wasn't thinking about anything. Mei shook her head quickly. Shin looked at the suspicious blush on her face. He didn't believe her. I brought you here because Kushina thinks you're a bit weak. she asked me to train you. And I wanted to test your strength. How are you going to test me, Shin-sama? Mei Terumi asked. You still don't understand? Survive on the battlefield. Shin appeared behind Mei Terumi and pushed her. Mei hadn't even realized how she got there. Shin had used Yamatsu Hirasaka to teleport her. That's not how you treat a girl. Mei dodged a stray kunai, annoyed. She wasn't wearing a forehead protector, so she was a target for everyone, including the Kiri shinobi. Unless there was someone who recognized her, she would be attacked by both Konoha and Kiri shinobi. That wraps up this part of What If Copy System in Naruto. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.